The city's debt. As it looks now, we have an indebtedness of over $200 million. Am I wrong about that?
What was that word again? Indebtedness?
Yes.
Yeah.
The city's currently at about 25% of its debt capacity, which is about $133 million.
Okay.
And that's general obligation debt. When I think the number that you have, though I'm not entirely certain, I think the number that you had there was if you added up like our principal debt, interest, all that, and then projected it forward to 2034.
That's what we will be paying.
Like over the course of the next however many years. It's
Right.
not a debt that we have sitting on top of us right now. No.
So we can afford this. You're confident?
Absolutely. We're at 25% of our debt capacity this second. We're at 25% of our debt capacity.
How's about the city's credit rating? Is that going to, which I think, bluntly speaking, is not the most stellar, how will that affect the potential interest rates and or the difficulty or ease of getting the loan, so to speak?
Yeah, so real quick to finish with what Aaron brought up was from 25% of our debt capacity, 2019 bond added on top of that will bring us up to 41% of our debt capacity, which means that we're not even with the addition of this bond, we're not going to go above 50% of our debt capacity. As far as the credit rating goes, if you remember back during the sanitation fee, one of the points that the mayor continually made was that it's absolutely essential that we keep our credit rating from being downgraded, because if it gets downgraded, it costs us more to borrow money to fix streets, drainage, buy fire trucks, so on and so forth. Our credit rating did not get downgraded. And as a result, Shreveport is still seen as investors still see Shreveport as a good place to invest in bonds and get a good return.
My final point is probably my most important. Okay. And I want to see a plan for better management of the bond issue. What's the timeline? Which projects will come first? Have we looked at property for police substations? Where are we on that? And can you assure me, can the mayor assure me we're going to do a better job of managing this bond issue and making sure, when we start Ninth Street, it's going to be complete by X time, etc. You get my drift?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I would say, like I said earlier, that I don't see the 2011 bond as being poorly managed. I mean, there are complications like with Ninth Street, but being in the 8th year and at 94% by the end of the year of a $175 million bond seems to be about par for course. But as far as this bond goes, I can assure you that the mayor has, and spoke to it last night, spoke to it at every town hall he's been to, is that making sure this bond proposal, when passed, is managed effectively is a top priority of his. Those projects are going to be prioritized based on need and capacity.
When will we see that prioritization?
Well, you see it right now. I can already tell you. So, for example, the first priority is the Shreveport Police Station. That's the largest project. It's a huge need. So
that's the first dirt will turn.
One of the first things they want to jump out the gate and get after is that you were going to need to start building and or acquiring properties for the substations.
Are we kind of hunting for that now? Is there something, I don't know what the rules are about bond issues or whatever it happens to be. Is there somebody at City Hall who's kind of scouting for a location? Do you have something in mind?
So one of the things people I don't think...
Is the A&E committee sort of thinking, contractor X or Y or Z, we've used them before, they did a good job. How is there anything in that process that you can do prior to, given the fact that it may or may not pass?
So, I mean, that's a good point. So some of the details, like as far as the way that's going to happen, police substations go first. Patrol moves out of the current building into the police substations. After that, they demolish a portion of the old building. The administration, and they'll start building the new central station.
Could you put it on the same site? Is that a possibility?
Yes, that's what they're doing. They're gonna demolish portion of the existing station and build a new, smaller central station next to that. Once they're complete with that, administration, support personnel, and investigators will move into that building. And then once they've moved into that building, they'll demolish the rest of the building to have room for parking.
Okay, we're not going to just acquire land for police substations like the 96 bond issue. Acquire land for a park.
No.
It's going to say on the ballot to build...
Oh, absolutely. Yes. This is they're going to build build and or acquire existing properties with buildings and everything in them for patrol for substations. They're going to acquire 4 properties for police substations in the 4 areas the Shreveport Police Department patrols. And then I also think it's important to talk about Proposition 3. Proposition 3, I can't tell you how many times in my life where I've had a friend share the same story with me, and I'm sure y'all have too. You pull up at a red light, and you're just sitting there, and there's no one else waiting to pass through this intersection. You're just sitting at a red light for some unknown reason, and you sit there for 2 minutes, and then the light turns green, and you get to go. Right? Well, in Proposition 3, there's money for modernizing our traffic control system so that when you pull up at a red light, it knows who's sitting at this intersection, and if there's no one else waiting, it's going to let you
like
go.
at 2 a.m. when you're the only car
exactly.
within. Okay.
And there's
Yeah.
a red light like that right by my house where I pull up at Cresswell, and it's just red, and I have to sit there for 2 minutes, and there's nobody around my house within eye shot.
With the Proposition 3, which is streets and drainage for the most part, correct?
And then the other thing too is, like, once you are released from that red light, often in Shreveport, you're just released to travel down a very bumpy terrain.
Dark street, yeah. No
a
lights
bumpy,
on.
a pothole-ridden road. And so this Proposition 3 is also going to enable us to overlay and repair those streets.
Is it going to be allocated by council districts, like they're going to each get their own equal amount, or is it going to be based on need?
Which is, I'm sure, which is just on top of that, as there are more and more of the town hall meetings like last night, I'm sure you're hearing more and more of. How are you going to break that down? Is it going to be, air quotes, equitable?
Yeah, so I mean, well, a lot of it's going to be based on need. We're not going to just go to a neighborhood and redo brand new streets just for the sake of putting something in that neighborhood. They're going to go to places citywide, across the whole city. And of course, council controls those funds. So, like, it's not like the city engineer just gets to unilaterally decide that street over there is getting repaved and then just go do it. He has to go to council and get those funds approved. So, but it's going to be citywide. It's going to be based on need.
Okay, so no districts are going to be ignored.
No, this is citywide. In
Okay.
fact, you know, like last night, it was interesting because I heard your news spot that y'all played. We were talking about people had a problem with the bond, but they didn't. Last night, the issue was not with the bond. Their issue was they want to make sure that their community, that their area is going to get what the bond promises.
Right.
They want to make sure that they're prioritized. And I can assure you that last night, the mayor heard their concerns and was very responsive to his concerns. In fact, I would say the mayor's been proactive about their concerns. That's why there's $20 million in the bond for that area.
Because I'm glad you brought that up, because we got a break. But
Got about 1 minute, kid.
Because I really am concerned about, like, the MLK ditch. For 30 years, it seems to have been neglected. And I really believe, Ben, and that if you picked up that MLK ditch and you put it behind Target, people would have come unglued in this community. And that troubles me to my core, that for 30 years, that's been allowed to sit like it is, and we haven't done anything.
Yeah, and let me say this. That in a nutshell was the concern last night from citizens. It was, in fact, the first and most vocal person at the town hall last night started what he was saying by saying, I do not have a problem with anything in this bond. I like the bond. My issue is we have been neglected for decades in the MLK Cooper Road area. And it's hard to argue with them about that. But what I would say is this mayor hasn't been mayor for decades. This mayor has been mayor for 8 months, and this mayor has fought alongside Councilman Bradford to make sure that there were equal representation for that area in this bond, and they meet some critical needs for the Cooper Road and MLK area in this bond proposal. And the mayor is going to be focused on making sure that that's carried out the way it was intended.
Ben Riggs, Communications Manager, Mayor Adrian Perkins. Thanks for stopping by.
You got it right again.
Huh?
You got it right again.
4 for 4, kid.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Ben. I
Don't
appreciate
hold
y'all.
your breath for next time.